Thomas Prideaux, the notes before you.
Thomas is going to reread that note over and over, trying to memorize it. These words, they don't make sense. They're not words that he recognizes, but Thomas turns to Jenkins, absent-mindedly running his hands over the things on the desk, twiddling the knife between his fingers in a sort of dexterous way, trying out his new reflexes that have been increased by this red jelly.
You feel that knife almost slips perfectly balanced between your fingers, almost in a way that you would see some kind of street trickster or magician manipulate a coin between his fingers.
Jenkins, old boy, is this red jelly anything to do with these things? Are you keeping them in the tanks or what? It's still a little on the unclear side, old boy.
You have no idea, young Thomas, and I can't reveal all of my master's secrets. I wouldn't want to be in the doghouse, but have a look for yourself. If I haven't told you, I can't get into trouble for it, but if you see it for yourself, you've only yourself to blame.
And Thomas, laughing, walks over to the tank, the large red tank in the center of the room, presses his face, his bulging eyes against the glass, and looks inside.
Can you give me a power roll, please, Thomas?
With my addition. Indeed I can.
Indeed.
So that is a 14 under 55. A hard success.
With your face against the glass, you've seen this red orb, you've seen this faint silhouette inside seem to move. You hear something, but you don't hear it coming from the tank, you don't hear it coming from the red orb. You hear a word, and it comes from within your own mind.
Is there a valve or something for releasing the fluid in this tank?
There are a series of chains that hang from the ceiling in a series of pulleys that link to the other 4 smaller tanks around this larger tank. And obviously you can see that there are the connecting tubes between the smaller tanks, all leading to the centralized tank where this red orb is. At this stage, Thomas, can you give me an intelligence roll, please?
That is a 0.7 under 65. That's an extreme success.
Wow, okay, this needs some rewarding, Thomas. You look at this red orb with this faint silhouette in, these words resonate in your head. And you don't just hear the words, you see them. You see where they're coming from. This red orb before you on these rocks in this tank. It is an egg. What is in this egg, even though it communicates with you, it sleeps, it slumbers. This is one who sleeps, who dreams. And as you look at it, really look at it, you can see when it moves and shifts in the egg, it's like a baby would in its mother's tummy. A hand pressing here, the shape of a spine, but they don't look like hands and spines. Thomas, that red egg, you lick your lips, that red gelatinous egg in the tank before you, you can see small little rivets. It almost looks like someone has sliced small sections off this gelatinous red egg. They're using it for something. The taste in your mouth is absolutely, unwaveringly delicious. But in that moment, Thomas, as you lick your lips, you know where that gelatinous red flesh has come from.
Jenkins, if I agree to join you, can I have more jelly?
Thomas, I knew you'd come round. I knew we would be more than brothers in arms, but brothers in the new order, the new world, the new way. Well, I don't say too much. Our master won't be happy, but I will report back to you his thoughts and feelings on the matter. I may have jumped the gun somewhat, but I feel things are moving rather slowly. I assume I can trust in your support, in your sister's hand in marriage.
Naturally. And of course, in return, you can give me support in some of the more mundane elements of society. I'm sure we all have issues and problems that would be nice if they could go away.
Your unfortunate business with Lord Cosgrove will be dealt with in a matter of days, Thomas. Everything is lined up like a series of dominoes. As soon as you do what you're told, the first domino falls. But when it does, Thomas, you can't stop the effect. There's no going back. You will need to undergo a baptism.
Then let all the dominoes fall.
Charlotte Lambert, you find yourself on Kingscombe Beach after a wonderful game of Pall Mall, and you have your club raised in the air, but the handle is at the other end, in the eye socket of a skull that you found. The elongated skull, the eyes sunken into the sides, and the teeth hanging from the jaw like 1,000 little razor blades. But you're not alone, Charlotte. You have members of the ton and society still promenading, some gathered having watched your game of Pall Mall. And obviously across the beach are your wonderful friends. Miss Anastasia, Reverend George, Mr. Burrows, accompanied by Tobias Hawthorne, the son of Lord and Lady Hawthorne, who were also present. Charlotte, you lift that skull into the air before you, and you feel a wave, a pulse, a wash of something coming over you. I'm going to ask you for a power roll, but before I do, I'd like to ask you if there's anything you'd like to say or do.
Charlotte is very conscious that she is being watched. She has an audience, and the last thing that she would want to do is let them see this skull. I mean, wow, that's just wrong, isn't it? This is clearly not an animal of this earth, and this is not a human of this earth either. So her first thought is to just kind of turn her back very casually and just make it look as though she's just appreciating this lovely seascape in front of her and looking out to the horizon and just kind of standing in a way that maybe her skirt, as it's blown by the wind, kind of blocks the sight of this skull that she's holding.
And as you do, and the sun on the horizon before you disappears, as Hawthorne steps in front of you, creating himself of this rather looming, dark, shadowy silhouette. But you recognize his voice as he leans in and says, "Very good, Miss Lambert. We can't have the riffraff seeing this, can we? Very good." And you feel, Charlotte, you feel this wave, this pulse, this wash, not only as you look at the skull and you, as you quite rightly say, see this alien-looking skull, but you also feel this push, this pulse. You feel that it's coming from Hawthorne. You look at him for a moment. You look to the others as you feel this breath, this lightheadedness, these spots dappling around your eyes. As you look to the others, you see Anastasia. You see Reverend George, Burrows, Tobias Hawthorne, Lady Hawthorne. does she have a little smile on her face? And your eyes land back on Hawthorne as he steps closer to you. You think you see a slight hint of red in his eye. Charlotte, can you give me a power roll, please?
With due sense of trepidation, yes, I can. Oh no, that was a 66 against a 55. That's a fail.
And I'm afraid you feel its effects. And as you begin to drop to the floor, his arms sweep in and grab you, and he lowers you gently to the ground. Doing so, you also feel your Pall Mall stick with the skull attached being pulled from your hand. Everything goes dark, and all you can hear is the soft washing of the tide as it rolls up onto the beach. But it's not soft. You hear those waves washing harder, each time stronger, bigger, almost slapping, almost bashing up against the side of a ship. Charlotte, you hear the waves slapping against the side of a ship. You open your eyes, Charlotte. You are on a ship.
Is it that very familiar ship that I have come to know and not exactly love?
As you turn your head and you look towards where you firmly know the captain's quarters to be, you can see above the door the name of the ship, which is the HMS
Devonshire.
Charlotte drops to the ground. She falls into the sand. And you've seen Hawthorne standing there, Lord Hawthorne, standing over this skull, but also a distance from Charlotte. He's asked Anders to pick her up, to take her to the actual pavement off the sand. And Anders does, without a second's hesitation. And you see a crowd of people gathering in, respectfully, but a crowd of people gathering in. They are all looking at you, but they're also looking at Charlotte. Can I ask, in this moment, after seeing Charlotte finish this game of Pall Mall, raise this thing, almost bone-looking thing from the ground, what is it that you do?
Reverend is immediately going to turn to Lady Hawthorne and say, Goodness, I dare say finding a skull on the beach would give anyone a fright.
Well, yes, of course. I do wonder, is this not one of these fossils that I keep hearing about, though, rather than a skull?
I'm not entirely sure the phrase fossil has been invented just yet. Comes out in about 20 years' time. But, finding bones in the ground, goodness, do we get much wildlife washed up on the shore over here?
Well, yes. I mean, obviously there are marine creatures out there that do die and their carcasses do wash up. Perhaps it's one of those. But really, enough about skulls. I mean, your poor friend, my darling.
Yes.
Is my dear Miss Lambert all right?
Oh, she'll be fine. Don't worry and don't hold yourselves up for us. Look, I've sent for Dunn. He'll be coming with his people. They understand medicine. They'll be able to look after Miss Lambert. My darling, please don't let this hold you up. Take them on and see the spa. It is Prideaux, part owned after all. Miss Anastasia, you wouldn't say no, would you?
I think Anastasia would have shouted Charlotte and run up to her as soon as she fell down. But I'm assuming kind of buffeted by Lord Hawthorne.
You can assume away. Can you give me a dexterity roll, please?
Oh, she loves that. All right. That is a success with a 51 over 75.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's just a bit better than old Hawthorne here. As you run past, then you can see that he steps in front of you. It doesn't stop you. He doesn't there's no grabbing you or anything like that. So you have the choice. You can move past him, or in front of all these people here, on the seafront, all these lords and ladies all walking, all promenading themselves, watching your wonderful game of Pall Mall. And they've watched you for a while now. They've seen the behavior. They've seen these different social interactions happening, and conversations, rumors, whispers have been flying around. Society is talking. Society is listening. And as you run towards Miss Lambert, Lord Hawthorne does step in the way. You can get around, but he steps in the way. Yeah, Miss Anastasia, what do? Do you go past him? Do you stop and listen?
I feel like she would want to see that Charlotte is okay in herself. She wouldn't trust Lord Hawthorne. And also, when has Anastasia stopped and thought about taking a reputation hit, really? That doesn't seem like her. I feel like it's very reasonable to want to check on your friend, but yeah,
Okay.
she would probably just pass by him. I mean, last time he's threatened to kill her a couple of times now, so
Never directly to her face.
never direct. I mean,
Honestly, society would be appalled if that was the case. Never directly to a lady's face. So Anastasia, you step back. Lord Hawthorne says, "Oh, Miss Anastasia," and you step around. He does not grab you. He does not stop you. Because society is watching, he acts accordingly, but watches you ignore him, as does everybody else.
Uncle would be so unhappy.
Well, we'll find out in a moment, shall we? As you approach Miss Lambert, you can see that she's lying on the floor. She's been placed on her back. A cloak has been put under her head. Anders is standing dutifully there, kind of keeping people back. Not that people are trying to get too close. These, there's no mob. These are gentle societal folks. These are the best of the best. This is this is perhaps just below the ton. These are the ton well-wishers. These are the ones that want to be in the ton. There might be one or two, but it's a very unusual situation. Hawthorne seems to stay where he was. He seems to now be standing in front of said skull, Anastasia, as you look back. But you run to Charlotte. What is it that you do after you make a reputation roll?
I'm ready. That's a 95 over 47. That's almost a fumble, but not quite.
Oh my word. Okay.
It's been steadily going down for a while now.
And there's no one to blame, but
the people who want to kill me.
Well,
yes.
I was going to say yourself, but sure, we'll go with the people who want to kill you. God, there's always someone to blame with the youth of today, isn't there? Okay, so I would say that this is bordering minor infraction and definite faux pas, because it would be a minor faux pas, I think, if it was just in the eyes of society there watching. But it's the fact that everybody saw you ignore Lord Hawthorne publicly. And he's thought of very well in this community. So I think that people would see this. People would go, "Oh, well, I wouldn't do that. Oh, my word. Did you see that? Lord Hawthorne tried to protect her, tried to speak to her, tried to look after her, and she didn't listen, that silly little girl." So I think this is a definite faux pas, which is a 1d6 loss to your reputation.
That's significant.
It is.
There's a 5.
Oh! Okay, you go into a bout of reputation loss.
Ooh, that's exciting. What do I roll for that?
Well, I don't know. I just made it up. It's a bit like a bout of sanity. I thought that'd be a cool thing to do. But
has she lost enough to be censured yet? That's what we want to know.
Yet, I don't think so. Have you lost 1/5 of your reputation points within one day?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Okay.
Just for the listeners, what would happen if I lost more than 1/5 of my reputation a day?
Well, you'd be censored. You would be rejected by society. Invitations would stop coming. You'd be ousted.
Oh, no.
You would be seen as. But in terms of this game,
for that day or forever?
No,
is it indefinite?
Until you redeem yourself.
Until you were able to improve your reputation by societal deeds. So it is a sliding scale. You can improve your reputation.
And there's also mechanically that you start getting penalty dice on certain interaction rolls as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, much like if you've got a really good reputation, you get a bonus die in those situations. Okay. So, Anastasia, you are being judged.
Mm-hmm.
But whilst you're being judged, you find yourself hovering over Charlotte. She is clearly out cold.
I think Anastasia will first kind of call her name a few times, see if she wakes up, while looking at her, trying to see if she feels like she's in danger. Like, is this kind of like a really urgent thing she needs to worry about, or is it more of a she got scared? She doesn't have any medicine or anything like that, so I think she'd either use something like first aid, or spot hidden to figure out if like there's something particularly wrong with her.
So you're welcome to give me either of those roles, each one resulting in different information.
Okay.
But again, even though you have made your reputational role, depending on what you do might dictate what society's talking about. Is it right for a member of the Ton to be giving first aid checks to what? Third cousins, second cousins, staff? Is this something that we do?
I think she hunches over her, so depending on the angle, maybe people can't see what she does exactly.
Okay, so then what I'd like is a sleight of hand roll if you're doing a first aid check, or just a spot hidden if you are visually investigating to see if there is a source of her trouble.
I'll do a sleight of hand. Why not? I have it.
Okay.
That's a hard success, 21 over 46.
So in terms of a first aid check, you are very able to attempt that now without the observing societal peerage kind of watching you in this moment. They don't see what you're about to do, whether you succeed or fail.
Okay, let's give it a try. I only have base, so that's a failure. But no one knows.
No one knows that you failed checking. So yeah, you can feel that she has a pulse.
Okay.
She is unconscious. She's not conscious. You can feel that she is breathing. It seems to be steady breathing. I think, what kind of a fail was it? Just a straight up fail?
Yeah, 67 over 30.
Okay, you're not really able to sense much, except as you put your hand on her forehead, you pull your hand back, and it's wet.
One of those dreams.
And it's cold, and you can almost smell. Well, it's difficult because you're at the beach, but you know that this is seawater.
Yeah.
And then you hear, Miss Anastasia, I'm not sure that Miss Lambert needs you hovering over her.
Sorry, excuse me. I needed to make sure she was okay. She seems to be breathing. I think she needs some rest.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Prideaux. If you'd like to rejoin the party, perhaps society will be allowed to continue to move as is dictated.
She doesn't say anything. She just moves away.
Lady Clara is going to walk over, shoot a glance at her husband, take Anastasia's hand, pat it, very sort of in a very motherly sort of matronly type fashion. Say, "Don't worry, my dear. Lord Dunn is very skilled. I'm sure your friend will be fine. You know, dear Charlotte will be well looked after. And you mustn't worry. You really mustn't."
Anastasia forces a smile because she knows that they're planning to kill her and possibly also Charlotte, but she doesn't know what to do about that. Like,
Roll for paranoia.
It's not called paranoia when you're right.
Roll for fact. Okay. Burrows, just quickly over to you, please. I have in my mind, I think, perhaps, but I need you to tell me what it is that you're doing, Burrows. It's rather a unique situation, very public societal situation.
It is, and Burrows feels, well, he has a lot of feelings. Let's say he feels quite out of his depth. And first and foremost, there's been a lot of talk of death, of killing, of mysteriously poisoned tea, and then a literal skull, a non-human skull gets plucked out of the sand, and that's all too much. I mean, we're talking about a man whose willpower, constitution, and sanity are all below 40 at this point. So I think when the skull was unearthed or unsanded, we can safely assume that he made a high-pitched peeping sound and then had to stop himself falling over backwards. He did drop all of the Pall Mall clubs, and he has spent the last few minutes carefully dusting sand off of them and replacing them in the bag. And he's just now gotten to the stage where he can dust sand off of himself.
Okay. Is there anything Burrows would like to do or say after that? I suppose minute outburst that probably from the majority of people that are there would have been ignored because to them it's not important.
As insignificant as Burrows is compared to everyone in his surroundings, he does feel the deeply British urge to apologize. So he sort of sidles up behind this crowd of higher class onlookers who have far more important things to focus on and just starts vaguely mumbling apologies for his outburst. And in so doing, tries to sort of peer around them and over their shoulders just to check that Miss Lambert is indeed all right. And so I suppose he witnesses all of these goings on, but isn't really part of them.
So likewise, you'll see that Miss Lambert is, there is a cloak under her head. She looks comfortable, but she has a certain moisture across her brow. You saw Miss Anastasia go up, check her, and she did check her. She did so against, well, society's expectations. But she's come back. She's returned.
Well, his eyes certainly widen at Lord Hawthorne's slight annoyance there. And he too begins sweating in sympathy with Miss Lambert's moistened brow. A very familiarly moistened brow, since he was there when she and Anastasia both, they've both been drenched on a couple of occasions, actually. So just a lot of flashbacks right now.
Moist kind of people.
Just damp.
Yeah.
The climate.
Trait. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The climate.
Does not agree.
Burrows, can you give me a quick spot hidden, please?
Love to.
Nice.
That is a hard success. 10 under 40.
Oh, fantastic. Well, there's two things really that you see with that. Firstly, you say you kind of you looked at Lord Hawthorne as he reprimanded, shall we say, publicly reprimanded Miss Anastasia for her unladylike behavior. But as you do, he looks at you, and you, as you say, your eyes immediately drop. The unfortunate thing is they drop to exactly where the skull is, because that's where he is standing, and that's what he is blocking from the majority view of society. And you see this skull. You see that it is like a human skull, elongated at the back. And for the first time, you really see that the eye sockets are stretched around to the side of the head. You see that rather than having a singular nasal cavity where the nose and cartilage would be, that there are two smaller nasal cavities. But the arguably slightly unnerving aspect, as you may have seen on a dinner plate once upon a time or on a fishing trip as a child, is that the jaw contains many, many, many needle-like razor-sharp teeth. And then your eyes slightly rise. And the lovely thing is that you see Hawthorne staring directly at you.
Oh dear. Am I within sort of comfortable speaking distance, or is he on the other side of the crowd?
I'll allow you to decide that.
If possible, I'd like for it to be sort of close enough that Burrows can speak to him without yelling. And as they make eye contact, he only holds his gaze for a brief moment, and then he bobs his head into a sort of half bow and says, "My lord, interesting specimen of sea life. Just I'm no angler, but just an interesting, unusual. I would have thought. Well, I don't know much about the Piscine population myself, and it seemed to me that I'll just take the clubs and put them in the carriage, shall I?"
He looks down at the skull and then looks back at you and just says, "There's nothing unusual here, Burrows. Nothing unusual at all. Say it."
Quite so, sir. Just as you say. Nothing unusual. Nothing out of the ordinary whatsoever here.
Burrows, don't you have a job to do? And his eyes flick over to Anastasia.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. Yes, I shall jump to it. Jumping.
Very good. I imagine you jump off, Burrows.
Yes, he does. He positively hops over to Anastasia, where he's just sort of, his eyes flick back to Lord Hawthorne, and he just attempts to look as observant as possible. Like, yes, this is me doing what you want. Absolutely.
And Hawthorne in that moment will turn and look, and he'll just kind of shout out over everybody. Those of you rather than everybody within society who seems to, some have dribbled off, some have stayed there, some have come and joined, but you can see that the crowd is thinning out. The game of Pall Mall is over. The kind of the spectacle of seeing the new Prideaux family members, even though there is one missing, and you've heard that little ripple, that you've heard the name Thomas mentioned a few times just from the crowd, but well, that's it. You've just heard the name. But Lord Hawthorne just shouts over, Tobias, boy, just go with your mother. Make sure everybody else is looked after. I'll stay with Miss Lambert and make sure that she's taken care of. Between myself and Dunn, we'll have her up on her feet in no time.
Anastasia would like to kind of cross paths with Tobias, and with a big smile on her face, as she knows she should right now, say really quietly, will they hurt Charlotte?
And he leans down to pick up one of the Pall Mall balls in front of you. As he bends down and his face is away from Lord Hawthorne, you hear him almost in a whispered voice just say, no, Lord Dunn, he'll look after her. It's okay. And then stands up with a smile on his face. And
can I roll my base 10 of psychology to make sure that I believe him? Absolutely.
Do you know what? I think because you've had interactions with this individual before, and because of the strategic social chase that you've had with him and that you've engaged with him, I think because of that wonderful base value, we'll even go with a bonus die. I think you've got a bit of a tell on him today. This might not be all the time.
So generous.
It's been said.
Okay, the first one's a 93, followed by a 43 over 10. So, no, but, without any information, my feeling as a player is to trust him. So let's go that way.
From what you can tell, he seems to be being honest. He's whispering that to you. I suppose the thought that might pass through your head, he doesn't need to say anything at all. But he picks up the ball, takes it over to the bag that Burrows has got, hands the ball over to Burrows, turns, and, Mother, are we to continue?
Yes, of course, my dear. As you know, Dunn will take good care of Miss Lambert, our dear Charlotte. So yes, I don't see that there's much point in staying here on the beach for the locals to view us as a means of entertainment or a source of entertainment, my dear. I think it's not too far to walk, is it? And the weather is perfectly pleasant. So shall we have our promenade in the general direction of the spa?
Oh, yeah, of course, Mother. Miss Anastasia, if I may. And he offers his arm.
Ooh. Steamy. Yeah, all right. All right.
Reverend Lady Hawthorne, you're very welcome to react to this. You can please tell me if it's different, but I can only imagine that with Tobias offering his arm to Anastasia and continue the promenade, and this will be back into more of the central area of Kingscombe, that the Reverend and Lady Hawthorne would essentially join behind and follow behind together, keeping
Yes, definitely keeping. As his mother, I am quite pleased that he's finally showing an interest, particularly in such an eligible match. But obviously, decorum must be maintained. So yes, I will be following a discreet distance behind, hopefully accompanied by the Reverend, to make sure that there are no improprieties.
Indeed, and the Reverend will probably shoot a knowing look at Lady Hawthorne. A gentle smile of, step in the right direction, Lady Hawthorne. And just follow her along humbly next to the host, following the children. And trying to spare a thought for Charlotte, because he's really is quite worried about her. If it was a skull and she fainted, she's not the fainting type, and all the kind of trouble she's been having with. Really, Charlotte is preying on his mind as he watches Anastasia with Tobias.
I have a question.
Please go on.
Do I get a reputation boost for being seen with a Hawthorne?
Okay. I tell you what. I very much appreciate you bringing it up, and I think that I'm glad that we're, that is on your mind. I think what would be interesting here would be to see how and there is a walk, there is a 5-10 minute walk into the central part of town. You are obviously still being watched by, as Lynne said, the kind of the gawpers of society. Regardless of their class, people know who you are. They definitely know who a Hawthorne is. So depending on your actions on this walk, depending if there's anything that you do that we might seem or deem reputation worthy, I mean, taking Tobias's arm is probably one of the most reputable things that Anastasia has done since leaving Shepford Manor. So it's definitely a step in the right direction, but I think we might need to squeeze a little more juice out of this lemon and see where we go with it.
Okay.
It's in the right direction, I think, to be fair. But please do, if anybody else at any point thinks actually this could be a reputation boost, bonus, or please do remind me and say I think I've lost some reputation here. You please do tell me, because I think it's your ownership of your characters. It's lovely to hear that. And Reverend, I know you're worried about Charlotte. Did you not hear Lord Hawthorne say that he was going to look after her?
The Reverend stood with his Pall Mall mallet, watching from afar, almost frozen in indecision as to what to do. He's almost glad that Anastasia went over to see how Charlotte was. He's beginning to realize that, well, if you can't beat them, might as well join them. And so, if she can find out any information that he can find out later on, then that would be welcome. But equally, scooting past Lord Hawthorne, he did wince a little. I'm sure he almost heard the crowd go, "Oh," when she scooted past. But he is glad that Lord Dunn is coming onto the scene, because he's not sure whether he's met Lord Dunn or not. He's still thinking back to the dinner and the time that somebody didn't get stabbed multiple times with swords. And
I remember it well, the time that didn't happen.
I remember the time didn't happen, yes. And so he's literally has just been watching and probably nods when the mention of Dunn comes on, because Dunn's an unknown factor at the moment. Is he somebody who can get to know a little better than the Hawthorns, or
Okay, I'll tell you what, I think there's a role in that. I'm going to ask you though, Reverend, give me a roll to see what sparks that. Is it intelligence? Is it possibly, I don't want to, tell you what that might be. Is it a history roll? Is it something else? Was there something in that moment that may have sparked another skill roll?
If anything, he's looking at the almost politics of the situation, in that there is a Prideaux 33%, a Hawthorne 34%, and a Dunn 33%. Prideaux plus Dunn equals 66%. And so he is thinking, Lord Dunn, I must meet him sometime. So if anything, he would like to try an etiquette roll to see whether or not he can figure out, because he's been watching people a lot over the years.
Yeah, I like this. I really like your rather Machiavellian thought structure of the good Reverend here. So please give us the roll, and let's see if there's a...
Oh, that is a success. 68 versus 70 etiquette. So,
nice. You just, as you're thinking this, and you're thinking about the percentages of the Kingscombe Spa business, which, I suppose owning the land is one thing, but being directly involved with the business for a series of lords of this area, members of the Ton, being involved in business in this way, might, pique a moment of curiosity, or possibly, as you say, even the etiquette of the situation. I mean, you remember, now that you're forcing this memory back to the surface, after a very unusual evening where you then found yourself drinking tea in Lord and Lady Hawthorne's manor. Lord Dunn was there. He was at the funeral. He was at the funeral. You didn't speak to him at the Heart of the Sea Chapel, where Reverend Giles Marsh was giving service, and where you yourself read and gave service. But there was a moment after. You're remembering now, Lord Matthew Prideaux, his remains were taken back to the Prideaux estate. You were there with Lord Hawthorne, with Lord Dunn. The Reverend Giles Marsh gave another rather unusual sermon, speaking about, may we be blessed in his dreams, a place where miracles happen. And then you remember Thomas almost trying to throw his lordly weight around and almost insisting that Dunn and Hawthorne, they come in for dinner, or maybe they were already invited for dinner. It's hard to put it together, but you remember going into the manor house with Hawthorne and Dunn. Dunn didn't speak that much. He seemed to follow Hawthorne's lead from what you can remember. He did seem, I suppose the word would be interested. He seemed interested in Miss Lambert. You seem to remember him even inviting her over for tea. Strange.
And the Reverend has had a thought as he realizes Dunn is a doctor. That's interesting. Because it would have to have been a doctor to have made the modifications to the body we saw in the coffin.
Give me an intelligence roll, please, Reverend.
That is a success, 67 versus 80.
Not only would it have had to have been a doctor, Reverend, it would have had to have been a surgeon. With that precision, with the way the neck below the ear down to the collarbone had been sliced and stitched and folded. I mean, it was almost a work of art. It was a practiced maneuver. It wasn't some general practitioner. It was someone who was practiced. Interesting thought there, Reverend. Interesting thought.
Interesting.
But as you walk through the street, you may be having these thoughts, but isn't it quite wonderful that you're having them whilst standing side by side with Lady Hawthorne? I wonder if it's worth mentioning to her in conversation.
He will certainly make a very nice, polite conversation about the weather, and he will maybe inquire about Mr. Dunn's medical prowess, perhaps, and how experienced he is with dealing with ladies who faint.
Oh, Lord Dunn is a very experienced man. He's had a lot of experience, obviously, through the spa, dealing with a range of, one hates to say hysterical women, but ladies who are overcome on occasion. I mean, finding such a dreadful sea creature's skull like that, I mean, it's quite a shock after such a pleasant morning. I'm not really all that surprised that dear Charlotte was a little taken with the vapours, but you really mustn't worry. Dunn is very experienced and has a very good bedside manner, I'm led to believe.
That's jolly good to hear. And Lady Dunn, perhaps?
Oh, yes, dear Louisa, yes.
Louisa, oh, lovely. And do they have children?
Yes, they do. They have a daughter, Emily. They unfortunately haven't been blessed with a male heir.
Well, that is unfortunate, but you never know. They might find somebody, a suitable match. I really must bring my family down at some point. And then he pauses and he thinks, no, I never want to bring my family here at all. And tries to move on quickly and say, I've been invited to do a christening at the church by Reverend Marsh. I don't know who has been blessed with a child recently. Are you aware of anyone in the village who is bringing up a youngster?
Quite a productive society, shall we say. I can't quite remember who that one would be.
Oh, not
Yes,
to worry.
yes,
As I say, Reverend Marsh just mentioned it to me, and well, you know, with all the services that go on, I was delighted to be invited to perform a christening. But I am a little perplexed by the Bible that you folks use down here. I must admit it's not the usual version we have. But by all means, I am. When in Rome, as they say, this propensity to dream is it a common practice that people around here take the words of this text and dream their lives away, so to speak?
Oh, no. I wouldn't have said dreamt their lives away. I mean, surely this wonderful landscape, this amazing sea air inspires dreams. I mean, such natural beauty. I mean, our poets are inspired by nature and the world around them. Shouldn't society and our lovely little town also be inspired by their locale?
Very true, very true. It is certainly a beautiful part of the world. You forget this sea air and what it can do, and filling up the lungs, and it makes you good to feel alive.
Exactly. Oh, I'm so pleased that you're beginning to understand, Reverend.
And the Reverend continues the small talk and feels a little cold.
Okay, so a nice little catch up there, but just ahead of you is Anastasia and Tobias. Anastasia, Tobias has taken your arm and he is walking dutifully and at your pace and rather aware that there are members of the Kingscombe town watching, but you are able to talk. If you choose to talk quietly, you are able to talk privately, should you wish.
Does it feel safe enough? Because my instinct was we are quite close to Uncle and Lady Hawthorne, so I wasn't going to say anything too incriminating.
If you wish to talk quietly, then absolutely. But if you wanted to talk at a certain volume, knowing that they're close by, you could very much let them hear what you're saying. It's up to you.
Okay. I think Anastasia is actually going to try and get to know him in a reasonable volume, asking how long he's played the piano, what his favorite musical style is to play, what his childhood in Kingscombe was like, things like that.
Okay, well, he talks about the piano first and foremost. It seems an area of comfort for him. He talks about Viennese music and how it's something that his father very much wanted him to play, and he tends to, you get the sense that he tends to do what his father says on most things, on social things, but you can see that he, much like you sensed before when he's talking about these things, it's almost automatic. He's giving you the impression once again that he doesn't really enjoy the social aspects of his station in life, and he feels the burden. So even when he's talking to you, and hey, give me that psychology roll again with a bonus die.
Don't expect a different outcome.
Well, we'll see.
That's a 49.
Okay.
And a 9.
Hey!
A 9 out of 10.
And I'll give you some information, and then I'll even allow you to ask some questions that he will then answer in line with the information I've given you, because I think that's a really good success. So he talks about the Viennese music. He talks about the type of piano. He talks about how long he's been playing. He kind of skirts over his childhood quite quickly. And he talks about his family, his duty, what it means to be the son of Lord Hawthorne here in Kingscombe, the pressure, the responsibility, the pride. But it all sounds really hollow. It all sounds practiced. It all sounds, as we said, automatic. And if anything, Anastasia, you get a sense of disappointment that this is what the two of you are talking about. You get a sense that he thought you were like him.
I mean, she is. Anastasia is not one to skirt around things, so she is, as soon as she gets that sense, say, was there something else you wanted to talk about?
Well, I hope you will enjoy the tea, the gift.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the instructions on how to enjoy the tea.
Yes, I have to say I'm still very confused, but for some reason I trust you.
Good. I think I trust you as well. Do you I mean, you do. I know you do. I can see it in your eyes. You dream, don't you?
Well, I do, not in the most pleasant ways.
It's okay. So do I.
So does Charlotte.
Right. They mean more than you think, The dreams, not always straightforward. But they mean more than you think.
I was hoping they didn't, but when you wake up literally drenched, you start considering that might be the case.
Once I woke up about 3 foot above my bed. It was quite a shock when I woke up and hit the mattress.
Oh, it's quite dangerous.
Yeah. I had to pretend I was jumping on the bed when Anders came in. A very embarrassing thing for a young man to do, but I mean, they are dreams. I would indulge you if you really want to know what's happening here. Embrace the dreams.
But the dreams, they try to get me to get in the sea, to drown, to die.
No. It's hard to say. I mean, everybody's dreams are different. Listen, the best way to understand it, and I see it in your eyes. You aren't just dreaming. You know that, right?
I guess so.
You've been in their dreams, haven't you?
I have?
Yeah.
Maybe I have.
You have.
Oh.
I can see it.
Oh.
I remember the first time I did it. It was, well, it was scary, but it's not scary. It's a way to obtain knowledge. The things people might say in a dream is very different to what they would say in a ballroom.
Yes, it's safer from all
Yes.
the people staring and judging. She puts on another smile, just looking around like, is this a perfectly normal conversation we're having here? Nothing to see here, everyone.
Yeah, he copies. He follows your lead and smiles around, and you can see now that with the conversations that have gone on, quite a large, beautiful looking building, beautiful stone building appears before you, and within the row of smaller buildings, it really stands out, and you can see that it has these letters carved into the stone across these tops where the pillars are, which has it says Kingscombe Spa across the top. So you're very aware that you're reaching your destination. The last quiet thing that Tobias will say to you is, Miss Anastasia, I fear our conversations will be limited at best. Tonight, use the teas. Use the teas. Your man, Burrows?
Yes?
We must maintain communication. He's our best bet. He's the only way that we're able to do that. Please inform him that if I have a letter to pass through him to you, that he must do so. Or if I need to meet him anywhere for any reason, that he must be there. It's my only way to speak to you when people aren't watching.
And you know, does it mean freedom?
I am not as gifted as you. I wish I were. But if you use the teas, you might be able to find my dream.
I'll try. And I'll talk to Burrows. He's a good man.
Yeah, I can see it. He looks like someone you can trust. And you notice standing outside the Kingscombe Spa is a gentleman. Lady Hawthorne, you will be very aware of who this is. This is Mr. Kinnersley. And he's standing outside the Kingscombe Spa, and he is wearing the most beautiful pale yellow coat with tails, with a white high-collared shirt beneath, and dark blue trousers with white socks that rim over with these lovely polished black shoes. And you see another person walk behind within the Kingscombe Spa, wearing the exact same outfit. You surmise that this is the Kingscombe Spa official outfit. And the gentleman stands at the door to the Kingscombe Spa and says, "My Lady Hawthorne, absolute pleasure to see you. I do believe we have with us, my lady, some new guests."
Let me introduce the Lady Anastasia Prideaux, the Reverend George Prideaux, and well, you know Tobias, of course.
Of course. And he gives a very, very low bow. Mr. Tobias, Lady Hawthorne, Miss Prideaux, Reverend Prideaux, please come in. We would like to treat you to the most relaxing experience you've ever had in your entire life. Please, follow me.
Jolly good, jolly good. Lead on.
Is my brother in? Will we meet him
Your
there?
brother has just left, unfortunately, Miss Prideaux. I do apologize, but he's become a changed man due to his experience. It's quite wonderful. He has been so charming and so willing to undergo whatever treatments that we've been able to offer him. We've been absolutely thrilled to have him under our roofs. But please, let me keep you out here in the street. Come in, please.
Indeed. Do show us around, and we'll need to see the office. Mr. Burrows here is a very good chap. I might get him to take a look at the books, make sure this place is fair and square, and not charging too much. And by the sound of things, you've got quite a gold mine here. And what type of water is it? Does it come from the sea? Is it a spring? And he's baffling a bit because he wants to throw in a question. And I mean, can you make a wine from it? Maybe there's a market to supply wine to the local church or something like that. What are the economic benefits of such a natural resource you have here? You must be very pleased with all this. Just really going full on.
Okay. And what's the centralized question there, Reverend, that you really wanted to hear a response to?
Show me the office. Don't give me anything to drink.
So, Kinnersley walks you in. Mr. Burrows, he almost kind of holds you there for a moment, but what he does is he answers those relatively quickly and all with absolute professionalism and positivity, almost expecting these questions. And he talks about, yes, it is, he doesn't use the word gold mine, but he says it is a very affluent business. And because of the reputation of the Kingscombe Spa, there are many that would come down and travel, and not just those within the surrounding areas. There have been lords and ladies across the country who have heard the renown of the Kingscombe Spa and would visit because of its healing properties. Those that come here don't just go for a dip in the salt sea like they do in Brighton. Here, no, they, leave better than they were. And we've had, to claim, not just lords and ladies, we've had members of Parliament. We've had occasionally, and I'm afraid, Reverend, I will have to remain nameless on this, but we have had the odd member, not direct, but royal family popping by for the weekend here in Kingscombe, and they have very much enjoyed their stay here in the spa. The healing properties, as you say, are not to be bemused. The healing properties of the spa are real. Here in Kingscombe, where miracles happen, people come to be healed, and they are healed. Whether it's spiritually, with our good Reverend Marsh, or whether it's physically here, where we care for people's body and mind, Kingscombe is a place of transformation.
Indeed. And ticket prices. Is it profitable? I mean, it costs a pretty penny to have all these visitors, and I hear what are those things that railway transport. It's going to take some investment to actually attract these large number of visitors that you envisage visiting this. What did you where miracles happen? That sounds as though it should be painted on a board outside, perhaps.
As you walk in, and he's pulling you in a little bit further now. Quite right, Reverend, and as a significant shareholder, perhaps the Prideaux family would like to induce some change here at the Kingscombe Spa. Hopefully not too much, as we are operating at a fantastic level. The staff here appear to every whim and need. And I would ask at this moment, as I inform you, Reverend, that there is no cost for you, or your family, or your guests. You are owners, you are shareholders, you are the Kingscombe Spa, much as the Hawthorns and Duns. And please forgive me if I have given the impression that you would have to pay for your time here. But please be assured that we make this affordable to everybody we can and maintain the business operating. The price that a member of the royal family would pay and the service they would receive might be very different than a visiting lord, perhaps, who might come for some other more bathing qualities as opposed to some other therapies. But I can assure you, my good Reverend Prideaux, that we will take great care of you. Mr. Burrows, I'm very aware that you are inclined to embed yourself within the office and look at the books, which I will absolutely allow to happen. Absolutely. But I fear that understanding the books and the business is almost looking at a painting and only seeing the blacks and the whites without engaging in the treatments here. Perhaps unusual, but Reverend, if you were able to vouch for Mr. Burrows, it would be quite wonderful if he were able to experience with you and the gentleman's baths what the healing powers of the spa is, and then look at the books. Of course, they're open. They're your books.
But you seem to be under the impression that I am ill. I have no need of healing powers. Mr. Burrows, are you ill? Do you have any ailments, sniffles perhaps, that might need curing?
Oh, why, no, sir. Hale and hearty, but I must say, I've not expected such favour. I would not, of course, not put myself forward. Only if you consider it appropriate.
I insist. And Reverend, I do not mean to insult. Again, please forgive my impudence. What I meant to say is that with someone like yourself, fit of body and fit of mind, you would be able to enjoy the relaxing qualities of the spa here, not just the healing properties. Yet, aren't we all seeking a little bit of comfort, a little bit of warmth, a little bit of self-healing? It's very easy to delude ourselves in today's busy society, Reverend, and you are, as you say, the demonstration of spiritual, physical and mental health, but surely a dip in the healing spas, something to talk about?
How many people are around?
Well, Lady Hawthorne is there. Tobias is there. Burrows is there, who's been invited in and has just said, with your permission, Reverend, I will go for a dip in the healing spa. Anastasia is there. You are there. There are probably about 4 now attendees, all wearing the exact same colours of Kinnersley.
That's got to go. They look ridiculous. That's one of the changes going in. The Reverend is going to try and give off the look of obvious pleasure directed towards Kinnersley, and he will say in a almost perturbed way, "You are quite the salesman, aren't you? If we must lead on, Mr. Kinnersley." And he will be led. He'll look over to Miss Anastasia and Lady Hawthorne. One assumes there is a ladies' and a gentlemen's section to the spa.
Indeed. Lady Hawthorne, Miss Prideaux, if you would please enter through this door here to the ladies' baths, you'll find attendees there awaiting your every need. Reverend Prideaux and Mr. Burrows, if you would enter through this door here, you'll find the gentlemen's baths, and again, you will find attendees waiting for your every need. And please, embrace your transformation. Thank you for joining us for Cult and Culpability. Remember, you can find us at www.miskatonicplayhouse.com, and you can also visit the main stage for other scenarios from the Miskatonic Playhouse with links in the show notes below. Please like and subscribe, and if you can spare a minute to leave a review, it makes a huge difference to other like-minded listeners who will be able to find and enjoy our work. Until next time, when the curtain rises again.